Anti-UAV Challenge. Destroy 10 UAVs with the MAAWs launcher. Hands down, this is one of the most requested launcher challenges. While the Mayhem only has to destroy 5 UAVs, the MAAWs has to take down double that amount. Rest assured, however, this challenge is nowhere near as difficult as the Mayhem. Completing this challenge will unlock the concrete camo. So before I go into detail on how exactly to complete this challenge, let's discuss a class loadout. The weapon of choice is up to you. My personal preference was the HBR A3. There's only one attachment that is absolutely necessary, and that's the red dot sight. Without the red dot sight, this challenge becomes incredibly more difficult. Obviously, you'll need the MAAWs as your secondary. For perks, you'll need low profile in Group 1. This is very important for the challenge, but we'll discuss that later. For Group 2, you'll need fast hands and blind eye, which will require the Perk 2 Greed wildcard. For Group 3, you'll want Blast Suppressor. If you use the primary Gunfighter wildcard and 3 attachments, as I have done here, that'll leave you with 2 points to spend as you please. But regardless of how many points you have left, I recommend using one of those points on the UAV. In particular, the Support and Scrambler module. I should note that if you feel confident on getting a lot of kills with this challenge-dependent loadout, then feel free to put on the Threat Detection module as well. So if you've tried the MAAWs launcher before, you'll know that it's not very good. It's nowhere near as accurate as the one in Call of Duty Ghosts was. Not only is it difficult to aim, it only has one shot. Most people have a hard enough time getting a normal kill with this weak launcher, let alone shooting one of the highest flying and smallest streaks in the game. As most of you have probably experienced, using the iron sights for the MAAWs will get you nowhere. Even if you have a clear line of sight of a UAV in the sky, shooting your rocket and aiming it with the bulky square iron sights will almost always have you screaming in frustration as your rocket goes nowhere near where you think you're aiming at. And this is a problem. A huge problem. If we can't aim our rockets properly, how are we supposed to shoot down a tiny, high-flying UAV? Thankfully, there's a remedy to this issue. That's where the red dot sight comes into play. So here's the tactic. Find the UAV in the sky, fire your MAAWs launcher to the right of the UAV, swap to your red dot sight primary weapon, and put your sights directly in the middle of the UAV. You'll want to follow it as it moves, never breaking your line of sight and always keeping it steady in the middle or slightly towards the front of the UAV. It'll take a few seconds before your rocket finally decides to collide with the UAV, but the red dot sight makes guiding the rocket insanely accurate. Of course, it isn't always all smiles and sunshine though. There are definitely a few issues. First of all, the amount of time it takes. From the moment you shoot your rocket from your MAAWs launcher until the moment the UAV is destroyed, on average, takes 12 seconds. The fastest I've ever done it was 6 seconds, and this only happens on the map Biolab due to the UAV flying extremely lower. So I like to tell people that destroying a UAV with the MAAWs launcher is very similar to Goku from Dragon Ball Z. If you aren't familiar with Goku, he has a technique called the Spirit Bomb. In order to accomplish the Spirit Bomb, Goku has to stand with his hands thrust to the sky until he gathers enough energy from all the living things to form a huge, powerful energy ball that he can then throw. And while he's gathering all this energy, he is 100% defenseless. All his attention must be focused on the Spirit Bomb itself. And that's precisely what we're dealing with here. To your enemies, you're an idiot looking at the sky aimlessly, and that's a problem. Perhaps in another Call of Duty game where there isn't much action going on, standing idle staring at the sky for 12 seconds would be doable. But remember, this is advanced warfare. People can essentially fly around the map in seconds. And that's why I said low profile and the UAV scrambler were essential for this challenge. You'll want to remain as hidden as you can while attempting to shoot down a UAV. For this reason, hardpoint is ideal for this challenge. While everyone else is distracted going towards the hardpoint, you need to go to the exact opposite side of the map the hardpoint is on and wait for UAVs. Of course, I hate to say it, but the less you play the objective for this challenge, the better. Not only does it keep you out of harm's way, but it essentially takes your team down a player. This means the enemy will likely have the advantage since you're doing diddly squat, which means more points for the enemies and usually more UAVs. This is exactly what we want. Sure, your teammates may hate you, but sometimes challenges take priority over winning a match. The next issue is obstruction. You have to have a clear line of sight to complete this challenge. If you break your gaze on the UAV with your red dot sight even for a brief second, you will not hit it. Try looking for wide open spaces on maps. Also, elevated locations make this much easier. The rooftops of the 2 buildings on Terrace, for example, are great for this. While up on these, the sky is completely open, making this a great spot. Likewise, the basketball courts on Riot is also a great wide open spot to target the UAVs. And speaking of obstruction, be warned about the curse of auto-aim. So let's say you have a clear line of sight on a UAV and you're waiting for your rocket to impact it. All of a sudden, an enemy jumps in your view. Your auto-aim will instantly pull away from the UAV and target him. It's very annoying and happens quite a bit. Also, I've seen a lot of videos telling you that you need to aim precisely to the right of the UAV when firing your rocket. There's a lot of references to clocks and what exact spot you need to aim for. To be honest, that's rubbish. It doesn't really matter the exact location, really. Just aim anywhere to the right of the UAV and it will usually work. Now, I say usually because sometimes, regardless of all these tactics, the rocket does whatever the hell it wants. I've had rockets do loop-de-loops like a friggin' US Air Force Thunderbird pilot before coming back in a straight line and destroying the UAV. And occasionally, despite your best efforts on guiding it, the rocket will simply fly below or above the UAV. This usually means that you messed up your lock-on with the red dot sight for a mere second at some point, even if you didn't realize it. You're bound to miss a few UAVs at least, but don't be discouraged by it. Also, the sooner you see the UAV appear, the better the chance of destroying it. Clearly, the UAVs don't last forever, and remember, this takes at least 12 seconds on average. That's also why I recommended hardpoint and being out of action and anticipating UAVs to come in. If you hear the announcer mention a UAV, scan the skies a few times. However, if after 2 or 3 full 360s around the entire sky you don't see it, that'll usually mean the enemy may be using the orbital module. You don't tend to see this a lot, but it does happen. Usually people will run this with the threat detection module so they don't lose it to anti-air players. Speaking of anti-air players, you'll notice a lot of people love to shoot down UAVs with the Stinger. While this normally is great and helps the team immensely, these guys are willy-wankin' wiswogs to people like us trying this challenge. I can't tell you how many times I saw a UAV, fired my rocket, put the red dot sight on it for a good 8 seconds, only to see my teammate whip out his Stinger and take it out instantly. Now that's frustrating. As mentioned earlier, fast hands is essential so you can swap to your MAAWs faster. Every second will count when you're a sitting duck attempting to concentrate your aim. So clearly, the faster you can destroy a UAV, the more chance you have to not get cold-cocked from behind. I also recommended the blast suppressor so you can boost and slide your way to an isolated spot before searching the skies for the UAVs. The less you make yourself apparent, the better. And that's about all there is to it. You'll want to be in an isolated location, preferably in an objective game mode such as Hardpoint, out of harm's way. Then, find an enemy UAV, swap to your MAAWs, fire your rocket a little bit to the right of the UAV, swap to your red dot sight primary weapon and aim in the direct center of the UAV. Next, follow it as it moves with precise aim. Whatever you do, do not break your gaze and do not let any object get in your line of sight. After a few seconds, depending on what the rocket decides to do, the UAV should get destroyed. It's actually pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Again, the entire process takes an average of 12 seconds, leaving you exposed and ripe for the picking. And of course, as with most launcher challenges, your KD may be affected. Just a heads up. I should note that each UAV destroyed also counts towards the anti-vehicle challenge. And in my opinion, UAVs are up there as one of the easiest vehicles to destroy with the MAAWs launcher. So don't just stop once you complete the 10 kills necessary for the anti-UAV challenge. Keep going until you get the anti-vehicle challenge as well. Either way, good luck with your laser-guided spirit bomb.